So in chapter 13, we start out with the beast, coming out of the sea with the 7 heads and 10 horns, being like that fourth beast out of the that had been mentioned in Daniel. Referring to Rome, and specifically in Daniel, and then it points out that there's one of the heads that is wounded to death, but is restored, and around the same time that this head is restored and comes back, the false prophet appears around the same time, and they claim that. That's a work of God, and that it's of God, and kind of sets up this false world religion, this kind of completely false Christianity, and so also in that chapter you see that this beast system calls everyone to take a mark on the right hand or foreheads, that allegiance showing that they're fully aligned with the beast. And then in chapter 14 it moves on. We're looking at the harvest of the righteous and the harvest of the unrighteous. So it gets to the point where you see Christ in the church showing, and then it comes to the end there, and you have the the harvest there, and then in chapter 15 you see in chapter 15 and 16 you see the last of the plagues, the 7 last plagues, and you see them coming out of the vials or bowls. And what I found interesting with the plagues being mentioned here is if you notice each of those, there's each set of these 7 comes out of the last 7. So you have the first 7 seals, and then as that last seal was broken, you had the trumpets. And as the trumpets started, you also had that bowl filled with the smoke and ashes from the altar, in heaven, and then dumped out on the earth. And so, each of those come out of each last one, and these last ones of the bowls are much quicker in their judgments, and so that's where we're at with 17 and 18, where we're going to be talking about the Babylon and the judgments that fell specifically on Babylon, and as we go into chapter 18, you'll see how that kind of relates back to that last 7. All right, so I'll start with 17, and we'll read verses 1 through 6. Right, it says, "And there came one of the 7 angels which had 7 vials, and talked with me, saying, Come hither. I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters, with whom kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon of the Great, the mother of harlots and the abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the wine of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration." All right, so we start out here with this, the angel which had the 7 vials, showing him this woman, this great, it's described as a great whore, and it says that she sits on many waters, and that many waters, represents the nations, all the earth there. And so you'll have people that will refer to this as some sort. This is a political union, and so for preterists that would be ancient Rome, and for futurists that's going to be the Antichrist and his future kingdom that he sets up. And so we're taking that everyone's molded together into one nation, and all their individual liberties and distinctiveness is taken away. And so looking on with that, they're all there together, and these same kings have joined together with her, and have been made drunk with or owing to. They're bringing together because of this wine of her fornication. And and so specifically this is going to be like the religious aspect of this false kingdom. That's why it's this great whore. It tries to look like Christianity, but yet it's completely worldly and totally worldly. And here in this next portion, it talks about him being carried away into the wilderness, and he sees this woman, and you'll notice that she sits upon this scarlet-colored beast, or this red beast. So it's pointing again to Satan. This is the red dragon that had been mentioned earlier, and you'll notice that it's full of the name of blasphemy. So it's not just like written on the forehead. It's completely covered with these names of blasphemy. And again, having that 7 heads with the 10 horns. So it's trying to show divinity, but yet it's of the world, and so it's very hypocritical there. And then you see it describes the woman being arrayed in purple and scarlet color, decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, and having this golden cup in her hand. So these things that they've done, these fornications that they've committed has made them like rich worldly, and that's what it's showing there. And this golden cup is full of this filthiness of her of these abominations that she's done. And then if you go on and notice here, it talks about on her forehead was written the name, the mystery of Babylon the Great. So that word, mystery, it's like hidden. Again, it's like these hidden things. Whereas God's word is going to be spelled out and very plain for us. This this false religious type of from this empire is going to be like, oh, you have to know a certain special thing in order to really understand this kind of thing. And so she has this. Her name is written mystery, and it says Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And you notice this huge contrast. The beast has this harlot. Whereas Jesus has the church, and it's known as the bride of the Lamb. This beautiful bride, versus this harlot that Satan has, that's trying to pose as something else. And then it goes on to talk about that he sees the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And so we see that through this there's just great persecution of the church and of the saints here. And he sees this, and he sees in wonder and admiration, not like, oh, this is a wonderful thing, but he's just stunned at what he's seeing through that. And then so let's look at our next verses. We're going to look at the rest of the chapter here. So we're going to look at verses 7 through 18. Right, and then it goes on, and it says, and the angel said unto me, Wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman, and of the beast that carrieth her, which hath 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and go into perdition, and they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not and is yet. And here is the mind which hath wisdom, the 7 heads and 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. These are the and there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and one is, the other is not yet to come, and when he cometh, he must continue a short space. And the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goeth into perdition. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as of yet, but receive power as king 1 hour with the beast. And these have one mind, and they shall give their power and strength unto the beast. They shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings. And they are with him are called, chosen, and faithful. And he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are the peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. For God hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree, and to give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of God shall be fulfilled. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city, which reigneth over the kings of the earth. All right, so here in verse 7, we see that the angel talks to John and asking him, why are you marveling? I'm going to tell you. He's going to tell him about the woman, the mystery of the woman, and of the beast that carries her, and with the 7 heads and the 10 horns. Okay, so he starts off the explanation talking about the beast that it was and is not. So it's talking about this, and what it's referring to here is the beast. It's out of these former evil empires, but yet isn't fully revealed yet. Isn't fully at the in time. Isn't at the in time here yet, and so it goes on talking about that will ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition. And then everyone that dwells on the earth is going to wonder. And then he specifically calls out that these that whose name were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, they're going to behold this beast that was, is not, and yet is. So again, pointing to the past, and it's not there, but yet is, and then. You have a few interesting things that come up with this. So, for futurists, this is going to be pointing to, that the Antichrist and his kingdom. The preterists actually see this as Domitian, the emperor at the time. And let me go into this. Next portion here and explain where they're coming from with that. So it talks about going on with the 7 heads and 7 mountains, which are figurative mountains. They're powers, and so there's 7 kings and 5 are fallen. One is, and the other is not yet come. And so, interestingly, you have. Domitian being known as Nero Revidius, or Nero is alive again. Nero was 5th in the line of 7, and so that's where they're pointing at that. He's the Antichrist for the preterists. That's where they're seeing that. The futurists will regard this as various world empires leading up to the Roman Empire. So the 5 that had fallen before Rome, and then the one that is not yet to come would be the Roman Empire revived under the Antichrist in the last times. And then we look on here at the so that's why it's saying that the beast that is and is not, he is 8th, but he is of the 7. So he's of the 7 line, but he's the 8th. And so, and then we look on at the 10 horns here, representing 10 kings. That so these ten horns would be 10 smaller nations that make up, this empire, and out of this empire, this confederation will make war with the Lamb. But ironically, these that they're talking about, being filled, this multitude of nations, end up rebelling and hating the very system that had given them power in the first place. And so you have where they're talking about this being Babylon, this great city would be this capital. So whether it be Rome itself for the preterists or for futurists, indicating the capital city that will be of his kingdom. You just based on how your view of that is which one it would be. All right, so we're moving on here into chapter 18, and so we're going to look at the fate of this great city. This portion of the world system that had been set up and persecuted the saints. And so let's go ahead and look at 1 through 3 here. Right, and after these things, I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightning with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, fallen, and has become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. For all nations have drunk of the wine of wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. All right, so here it's announced that that city's time has come. That God's judgment will come upon them, and so you have that pointing that Babylon is fallen. And so whether it be this future kingdom or whether it be ancient Rome, based upon how you see it, you see that it's going to be utterly destroyed. And you see that all these nations have come under this. We see that the same nations that were mentioned in Revelation 17:2, and you also see the same thing back in Revelation in the earlier chapters in 14:8. You see this same phrase here, and when it's going out through these plagues. Let me read 14:8 here for a moment. And there followed another angel, saying, Babylon is fallen, fallen, that great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. So this capital city has been so terrible and spread out so much that when it's time for that judgment to come upon her, that the rest of the world and nations are going to know that judgment's coming for them as well. And so let's look at verses 4 through 8 here. Right, and I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye may be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquities. Reward her even as she rewarded you. Double unto her, double according to her works. In the cup which she hath filled, fill to her double. For how much she hath glorified herself, and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her. For she saith in her heart, I sit a queen, and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall utterly be burned with fire, for strong is the Lord who judgeth her. All right, so we see that here in verse 4, there's going to be a call out to whatever remnant or whatever people are remaining of God to come out of there, because the judgment is going to fall upon her. That way they don't have to receive the plagues that He has for her. And we see that in verse 5, the reason is given. Her sins have reached into heaven. We can think back earlier in Revelation, where it talks about the saints calling out, how long until your judgment has come? Well, this is where it comes. God hears those cries of His saints and them asking for that vindication and vengeance, and God will make sure that justice is served. And so here it says, God hath remembered her iniquities. And so, because of her iniquities, she's going to be rewarded as she had rewarded you. So, as she had persecuted and laid waste to the saints and made martyrs of Jesus, so will she be judged. And not only that, but she's going to be double unto her. So in that same cup that she's filled with all of her fornications and abominations, it's going to be double filled with God's wrath for her. And then, interestingly, we see that why because of how much she's glorified herself and how richly she's lived by this persecution, and so she's going to be given all this torment and sorrow because she said that I sit as a queen. I have no widow. Her husband is, in that case, is the world. So she's come up with the world and has joined with the world, and so and come against Christ, and so she's going to be judged for that. And if you notice that here in the next, it talks about her plagues will come in one day. They're going to be swift, and it's going to be death, mourning, famine, and fire. And it's going to come from God, the Lord. And it says here, strong is the Lord who judgeth her. He's going to unleash all of His wrath and strength upon her because of what she's done. And then let's look at verses 9 through 20 here. This is kind of a lament from the world that as they see the judgments fall upon on Babylon. And it says, and the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her shall bewail her and lament for her when they shall see smoke of her burning, standing afar off for fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, thou mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth her merchandise any more. The merchandise of gold and of silver and of precious stones and of pearls and of fine linen and purple and silk and scarlet and all thine wood and all manner of vessels of ivory and all manner of vessels of most precious wood and of brass and of iron and of marble and of cinnamon and of odors and of ointments and of frankincense and wine and oil and fine flour and wheat and beasts and sheep and horses and chariots and slaves and souls of men. And the fruits that thy soul lusted after are departed from thee, and all things which were dainty and goodly are departed from thee, and thou shalt find them no more at all. The merchants of these things which were made rich by her shall stand afar off for the fear of her torment, weeping and wailing, and saying, Alas, alas, that great city, which was clothed in fine linen, and purple and scarlet, and all decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, for in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught. And every shipmaster and all the company in the ships and the sailors and as many as trade by sea stood afar off, and cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, What city is like unto this great city? And they cast dust on their heads and cried, weeping and wailing, saying, Alas, alas, that great city, wherein we made rich all the ships in the sea by reason of her costliness, for in 1 hour she is made desolate. Rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye holy apostles and prophets, for God hath avenged you on her. And so, we see each of these people that had been made rich and had been, doing well on earth because of the city and its influence, sees these judgments fall fall upon, and you see fall upon the city, and you see that they're standing afar off. They now in that time of crisis, you see that they're standing back. They've realized that judgment, they're going to be taking part in that too. So they're standing back for fear that they will be judged also. And it's come quickly in 1 hour, and you see that repeated, with each of the people that are seeing this. They talk about how quickly it's come. Within 1 hour, your judgment's come. So it's quick and catastrophic. And you see these merchants weeping. So you see the kings weeping and mourning because their powers, because where it's been judged, their power has been taken away. These merchants, their livelihoods are taken away with, all this merchandise that they traded, and you see that these things were so costly that even the souls of men was the last thing that was mentioned there. And then these fruits, these things that the soul had lusted for or longed after, earthly things, are all gone within that small frame of time. And then from these merchants on land, you see that they talk about the shipmasters also, are standing off and again afar off and talking about how quickly that had come. They'd made these many riches coming in and out of that city, and it's all just laid desolate, completely void. But then you see in verse 20, you see that the saints are to rejoice. At heaven, everyone in heaven is going to be able to rejoice because God has avenged us on her. All right, so let's take a look at these last verses that will talk just about how swift that judgment is. All right, and so in verse 21, all right, it says, "A mighty angel took up a stone, like a great millstone, and cast it into the sea, saying, Thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. And the voice of the harpers and the musicians and of the pipers and of the trumpeters shall be heard no more at all in thee, and no craftsman of whatsoever craft he shall be found any more in thee. And the sound of a millstone shall be heard no more at all in thee. And the light of a candle that shall shine no more at all in thee. And the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee. For thy merchants were great, were the great men of the earth. For by thy sorceries were all the nations deceived. And in her was found the blood of the prophets and of the saints and of all that were slain upon the earth." And so it's just this quick, violent judgment. We can look at the as a catastrophe, like this horrible catastrophe, and we can look back at Revelation 16:19 that refers to this great catastrophe that befalling the city. And it says, "And that great city was divided into 3 parts, and the cities of nations fell, and great Babylon came to remembrance before God, unto her cup of wine, of the fierceness of his wrath." And so, it's talking about this great earthquake there that had split the city into 3 pieces. So, perhaps this great earthquake, or like a volcanic eruption that completely just destroys the entire city and lays complete waste to it. Because it says that it shall be found no more at all, and absolutely nothing remaining. And you see that it talks about each of the people that were there. The harpers, the pipers, the trumpeters, the craftsmen will just cease to exist. It's going to be silent. Nothing happening in that city whatsoever, because there's nothing left of it. That light of the candle will shine no more. He's gonna completely snuff it out. And he goes on about the bridegroom and the bride. There's no more marriage. It's going to be completely and utterly wiped out. Nothing left. And it's done because through these sorceries or these tricks that all the nations were deceived. And because of that, it talks about what exactly was found in her: the blood of the prophets and the saints and everyone that was slain upon the earth. So because of her great iniquity and her great sins, God quickly and decisively deals with it and enacts that judgment and completely wipes that out. So, as I close here, I found this interesting quote from Spurgeon, from C.H. Spurgeon, and this is at the end of the 1800s, beginning of the 1900s, when he quoted this, and I think it rings just as true then as it does today. He says, I believe that one reason why the Church of God at this present moment has so little influence over the world is because the world has so much influence over the church. Yeah, that's exactly right, and I think that we need to keep that in mind as we go through this week. How much are we letting the world influence us instead of us influencing the world like Jesus had wanted? All right, so with that, I'll go ahead and close us here in a word of prayer. Lord, I thank you so much for this day. God, I thank you for allowing me to come up here and read through your word and teach on your word, Lord. It's just such a blessing, Lord, that you allow me to do that. God, I ask that you would be with us here as we close out here, and I ask that you would be with the other Sunday school teachers as well as they go through and they close their lessons here also, Lord. And God, I just pray that you would allow us to get every bit of information and every bit of encouragement that we need from your word here, Lord. God, I ask that you would allow us to think on that and ponder on that throughout this week, Lord, and that you would allow us to spread your word with others, Lord, and allow us to influence the world for you, Lord, instead of allowing the world to influence us. God, I pray that you would also be with the services as it's going to start here soon, Lord. That I ask that you be with our pastor, Lord. I'd ask that you be with our choir and our musicians and our choir director, Lord. That you would just allow us to come together as one mind and one accord in order to worship you, Lord. And God, I just pray that you would just help us to continue through that feeling of that you would allow us to continue to worship you and praise you and follow you throughout the week, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.